call the June 18th, 2020 meeting of the Columbia County Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Sir, if I could ask you to please remove your hat while you're inside of the meeting. Thank you, sir. If you'd stand with us, Commissioner Wilder will lead us in the invocation. Commissioner Dempsey will lead us in the pledge.
I would bow with us. Dear Lord, we want to thank you for yet again another beautiful day. Thank you for the many blessings that you share in the country, this state. We ask that you please some sense of love and patience and for the troubling times that we're having in all across our country, in Atlanta and Minnesota. Find ways for us to get together and show your love to one another so that we can bring things back to a peaceful way. I ask that you look over us and guide us tonight as we face these decisions. Do our best to honor you and to make his all these things in Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Flag, United States of America.
Public.
God, visible, justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. And if I could please remind you to silence your cell phones. We do have all 5 commissioners present tonight for 100% quorum. Gentlemen, you've had a chance to review the meeting minutes from our June 4th gathering. If there are no changes or addendums to those minutes, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion to approve the minutes as they're submitted passes 5-0. Gentlemen, you've also had a chance to review the agenda tonight. We do have no additional items, so if you're satisfied with the way the agenda was presented to us, I need a motion for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor? Motion to approve the agenda as submitted passes 5-0. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to clarify that the Planning Commission is a recommending body to the Columbia County Board of Commissioners. The decisions made on rezoning and variance requests tonight will be forwarded to the Commissioners for final action on July 7th, 2020 at 6 p.m. in these chambers. If you wish to address the Board of Commissioners at their meeting, please see Ms. Kara Harden, and she'll give you a request to speak form. We're less formal in these chambers. If you have a comment that you'd like to make during one of our public hearing items, or at the end of the meeting under public comments where you might have something that you'd wish to address that's not on the agenda tonight, we invite you to come up to the dais and give us your thoughts and comments in 3 to 5 minutes. And with that being said, we'll move on to the first item. We have 2 information-only items tonight. First one, Ms. Neal.
Yes, sir. This is a minor waiver request at 338 Mirror Street on 0.66 acres, currently zoned R3 single-family residential. We approved it on May 29th. This shows the location of the site off Mears and Vernon Street. The zoning of the site is currently R3 single-family residential. There's an aerial of the site, and this shows the 2 parcels that they're planning to subdivide the lot into. The lot 9A, as shown on this plat, will be at the corner of Mirror Street and Vernon Street. So in order to build a single-family residence on that lot, they have requested to reduce the front building setback from the Vernon Street side 2.5 feet from the property line, which will be 47.5 feet from the center line of Vernon Street. And again, staff has already recommended this, or approved this on May 29th.
Thank you, ma'am. And Ms. Bolte, a temporary use authorization on Bastion Road.
Yes, sir. This is a temporary use authorization for a construction trailer for the property at 187 Bastion Road. This was approved on June 10th. This is the location of the property at the corner of Martinez Boulevard and Bastion Road, currently zoned C3. And the location of the trailer right at the front corner. The primary concern with this application was parking on the site. This is a busy business as it is. It tends to use all of their parking and then some. They do have agreements worked out with adjacent properties to use some of their parking space for overflow while this trailer and this project is going on. So staff did approve this authorization on June 10th.
Thank you, ma'am. The first item on the agenda is an individual plat for Huffman and Dye. Mr. Butler.
Thank you, sir. This is an individual plat at 3725 and 3721 Knoxville Farm Road. It's 2.5 acres per lot, currently zoned RA residential agricultural. The lot count is 2. You're not actually creating 2 lots with this. Back in 2019, this came before y'all to create these 2.5 acre lots. If we go to the next slide, actually, here's a location of it on the west side of Untitled Farm Road, and the zoning, again, RA. So back in 2019, it came before y'all with a 30-foot driveway easement. You can see there that's shared between track C and track D. They requested to eliminate that with this plat. Again, this plat, this is the third time we've seen these sets of properties. In terms of eliminating the actual shared drive, Untitled Farm Road is a collector road, but it is a very low-speed collector road. Speed limit's 25 miles an hour there. Traffic has no concerns with eliminating the shared drive in this situation, and staff recommends approval of the plat.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, any questions of staff? This is not a public hearing, so we'll need a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the individual plat for Wayne and Faith Huffman at Clayton and Kristen Dye, properties at 3725 and 3721 Nob Hill Road.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? To approve, carries 5-0. Now we'll enter our public hearing portion of the evening, and if, ladies and gentlemen, if you do happen to come forward tonight to make any comments, your screen will be active, so if you like to point or draw lines or anything, you have that capability on the screen. We don't here, but you do there. Ms. Bolte, first public hearing is RZ 200605.
Yes, sir. This is a request for a rezoning from R1 single-family residential to S1 special for multiple uses, including a petting zoo, farm store, event venue, animal conservancy, and other related uses. This property is located on the south side of Columbia Road, just across from Amherst, near where South Old Bel Air Road intersects Columbia Road, and it is currently zoned R1 single-family residential. Surrounding properties are also primarily in residential use. We do have a couple, this is a church across the street, some other S1 type uses, and commercial zoning at the intersection with South Old Bel Air Road. This is an aerial of the site. You can see the property is currently in use as a farm. The existing house is here on the south end of the site. And then you can just see some of the fencing for the animal paddocks in this area and the existing gazebo roof. This is the street view of the property on Columbia Road. This is the existing driveway access and the view on Baldwin Lake. So this is the internal view from the adjacent subdivision. So the applicant's proposal is to have multiple uses on this site. She's kind of divided them into sections on the site plan and the narrative. So section 1 is up at the top of the site, includes the entrance drive, customer parking, and a large pasture area. That parking would be intended to remain gravel. Section 2 includes the pond, the pavilion, and the dock and playground areas, which would be used for the event venue, up to 100 people potentially for birthday parties, reunions, picnics, things like that. The pond would also house the ducks, geese, and swans on the property. Those two areas total about 3 acres of the site. Section 3 is kind of the part of the site in the proposal. It includes the petting farm facility as well as breeding space in the barn for some of the rare breeds of fowl and things like that would be on the property. So this would include the farm store, the animal food bank, an additional pole barn for storage, which you can see is currently right on the property line, adjacent to Baldwin Lakes. We did convey to the applicant that with an S1, there would be setback and buffer requirements there, that building would not be able to be directly on the property line. We do not have a revised site plan reflecting that at this time. The animal pens would include ponies, donkeys, goats, sheep, pigs, and potentially other animals, as well as guinea fowl for pest control purposes. There may also eventually be a caretaker's house in this area, as well as the small farm store. Section 4 at the bottom is the private portion of the property, so it's the existing house, portable storage buildings, chicken coops, and a paddock for a donkey to guard the chickens. Some photos of the existing site. So this is the driveway looking into the site across the pond, and the existing house, and existing barn on the property. And this is where the applicant would be breeding some of the rare breeds of chickens and such on the site. And then the existing pavilion space. and some other photos of the existing pens and fencing on the property. There have been previous complaints on this site from code enforcement and for stormwater regarding loose animals, barking dogs, drainage issues. Those have all been corrected at this point. The applicant has upgraded the fencing on the site, has installed a privacy fence against Baldwin Lakes, and has addressed those concerns. So there are no active complaints or concerns at this time. This site is located in the neighborhood's character area on the future land use map. This is intended to be for the protection of existing neighborhoods and the provision of new neighborhoods, densities between 1 and 4 units per acre, generally detached single-family homes in this area. This is not really an area that allows for agricultural uses or intense commercial agricultural operations. And the primary concern with the site beyond the future land use map is also the density proposed or the intensity of the use. It is a fairly small property, just about 9.5 acres, and there are several uses proposed involving a large number of animals on the property. Again, as noted with the site plan, the buffers and setbacks aren't shown as required, so once those are added to the site, it's going to further constrict the available space for the number of proposed uses. And staff is concerned that the number of uses in the space don't match up, that there's too many things going on for this size property. And staff is recommending disapproval.
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions of staff? Okay, is the applicant here? Yes, ma'am. Would you come forward and give us your name, address, and any additional information you'd like us to have?
I'm Jeanette Norris, and I own the property at 4856 Columbia Road. I bought it 2.5 years ago. At that time, I called planning and zoning and asked if I could have farm animals there. Told that yes, I could. I asked what type of farm animals, and I was told that there were no restrictions. I asked how many, and I was told there were no restrictions. So that was before I ever got my first farm animal. And since then, I have acquired several animals. I would like to be able to share it with the community, especially children. I'm a pediatrician, and so I have an affection for children. I like to encourage their growth and development, and I think that this would be a unique and educational offering for them. I've had a lot of families visit the farm, and they really enjoy it, and they tell me how much they want to be able to come back and share it with friends and others, and that it's also conveniently located for them. I realize that it's not in maybe the long-term plan for this area of Columbia County, which I was not aware of when I bought the property, or not even until 2 days ago. There are a lot of large acreage parcels around there that they may have a house on them, but for the most part are undeveloped, including the Baldwin property, which is over 300 acres adjacent to mine. And it's my understanding that it won't be developed, or there are no foreseeable plans for development of that property. So I'm not sure how all this works when the county wants housing developments on property where the owners don't want it. But anyway, nevertheless, I thought that this petting farm with other things that are offered as well would be just a unique and little charming addition to the community. I want it to be small scale. I don't plan on having 100 guests. The criteria or the guidelines that were requested asked for the capacity. Well, the capacity of the pavilion in the area would probably be 100 guests. That doesn't mean I want to have 100 guests. I don't want 100 people roaming my property. I want it to be very small, and visits would be scheduled or by appointment only, so that we could control the traffic on the foot traffic on the property, and parking is in the first section of the property. So people would not be driving down into the areas where the animals, employees and others would be. Let's see. Oh, another thing I would like to clarify is that the pole barn is not planned to be on the property line. I realized that the drawing that was previously submitted did not have the setbacks on it, but I have another one now that shows at least a 20-foot setback all around the perimeter of the property. That's from the fence, not the property line, and the fence is inside the property line. I'm not sure exactly how many feet on each side, but probably, I guess, 5 to 15, 20 feet in some places. Let's see. And I don't think that it's unreasonable to request rezoning, since there are other properties nearby that are also zoned S1 or commercial. And yes, there have been issues in the past, some complaints about loose animals. I had some very unreliable employees who were not good at closing fences. But I have more fences and fences inside of fences and gates inside of gates and pens and paddocks. And there are more planned, and it's been quite a while since there's been an issue with that. Barking dogs, I wanted to have livestock guardian dogs. Have farm animals, but I found out that they do bark a lot, including at night, bothering me as well. I did not mind at all getting rid of them, and I have no dogs. Don't plan to have any. I try to be respectful of my neighbors in any way I can. I've asked several of them if anything about the farm bothers them, the noise, the roosters. Actually, one neighbor said he didn't even know I had roosters. He's the closest one to me. Another one said, I do hear them, but I enjoy hearing them. They're like an alarm clock for me every morning, and I need to get up that early. So, but she's the only one who said she heard them. Another neighbor said he likes to hear my donkey bray. It's something unusual. He likes to sit in the backyard, and he hears the donkey occasionally. So I feel like it's sort of a, like I said, a unique, quaint little avenue, and I'd like for it to be park-like, not commercial. And I've never been to Steed's Dairy. I've had people make comparisons to it, say that mine has more to offer in a smaller area. I don't think I need 80-something acres. I don't want that. I want a small venue here to offer children's birthday parties. I don't want to do huge weddings, things like that. Just something small and quaint, manageable, controllable.
Gentlemen, do you have any questions?
I do. Ma'am, I see two problems with this property. One, if it was passed, we don't have any limits on how many animals of each type or kind you would have. So you may have 30 chickens today, for instance, and then we turn around a year from now and you have 200. That for an example. That's one thing I don't really care about it. The other is the ingress egress out to Columbia Road, because it is a very, very busy road, and if you get any traffic to mount anything at all, it's going to be a traffic hazard. Now that's two negatives that I see. You know.
And I have contacted DOT about that. Matter of fact, I've called them several times, and I'm keep waiting for some recommendation from them.
Mr. Sterling, what would the threshold be for a turn lane? What kind of ingress and egress, what kind of traffic count would you have to have that would trigger a turn lane being installed?
Triggering a left turn lane is a certain number. Quote me on it, but I think it's 150 left turns.
Day?
Yeah, I think it's in that range. Yeah, most likely the they'll, if there's any additional improvements required as a result, it'll be a right turn lane in that traffic off of Columbia Road. A left turn lane could be warranted with less if it's not only personal vehicles, but it is buses, things like that. That does play into that number as well.
And what kind of number do you think you're looking at for a decel lane and for a turn lane?
You turn in terms of cost.
Price tag.
350, 400,000 each.
You're in there. You're getting in the neighborhood somewhere. I don't know what exactly that number is. A lot of that's dependent on speed, so that triggers a taper length, and then also the lane itself. So you're several hundred feet of length in decel lane, potentially the same or similar for the left turn if that would be required. So there's several hundred feet of potential improvements that could be required by DOT. But again, that's their call to make.
Gentlemen, any questions?
We've had other votes before on properties where livestock or maybe chickens, not particularly a zoo, so to speak, but factor. It seems to me like there's always been a limited number count, always in the narrative. Is that the case? Is it true that somebody would say there's no limit to what she could do?
So under the R1 zoning, she can have personal animals, and there is not a limit on how many animals she can have on the property. She's over an acre, so the 6 chickens limit does not apply to this site. So she can have personal animals and personal livestock. So when she inquired about having livestock on the property, yes, absolutely, she can. What she's asking for here is to be able to open that up to the public and have a business operation there as well.
Does that change the criteria then for the stations?
We don't have anything in the code that has limits for that. Some of the provisional home occupations you've seen come through, we have asked them to give us a limit. This particular request is a little more complicated to do that because of the variety of animals involved. Usually we've been dealing with basically a limit on just the number of chickens for egg sales, something along those lines.
That was my point in the question I had earlier. There is no limit from a point of view of the zoning requirement. Correct. That bothers me.
But what would be the concern with a large number of chickens?
Ma'am?
I'm not understanding what the concern would be with a large number of chickens, other than the
Not necessarily chickens, any animals.
Oh.
I just use the chickens for an example.
Okay. I do plan to limit
We
it.
may turn around and you might have 20 donkeys.
No, I do
Or
plan
whatever.
to limit it myself because, like I said, I don't want to keep it on a small scale. And I know that you have to have a certain amount of area for animals in order to take care of them properly and
Gentlemen, any other
feeding
questions?
and waste.
Yes, you said you spoke with your neighbors about, if they felt like there would be any problems with it. Are these folks in Baldwin Lakes?
Yes.
Okay.
I went door
Those
to
houses
door.
right there on your property line?
I went door to door on Baldwin Lakes Drive. Now, about half of them were not home at the time, but I did speak to several. I've spoken with the property owner on the Baldwin property, the other side of me, and she even invited me to let my goats graze there. Matter of fact, once she gave me a goat.
Yeah, they're undeveloped.
Yeah, right.
Much.
Did any of the neighbors come to speak on your behalf?
Not that I'm aware. There's I guess the closest neighbor or most affected neighbor would be the one at 4850. And I've spoken to her many times, we're on friendly terms. She likes to feed the geese and ducks and swine. She comes out at 5 o'clock every day, feed them. And I asked her if anything bothered her there. I asked, did you want me to put up a privacy fence, to plant bushes, anything you want me to do to make it more acceptable to you? She said, no, I have no problems. I had a donkey that was up in this area that he's the one that tends to bray. And I asked if he bothered her. I actually had moved him the day before I spoke to her because I was afraid he was bothering her. And she said, oh, no, he didn't bother me at all. And then there is a business here, landscaping business. And I've spoken to that property owner, and he has no issues. Actually, he signed a letter for me here last week indicating that he has no issues.
Okay. Ms. Norris, let me ask you to yield the microphone, and let's see if there's anybody else who would like to speak either for or against this, please. Thank you, ma'am. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak either for or against this particular rezoning? Yes, sir, Mr. Willis. Please come forward, give us your name and home address.
Willis, 741 Royal Springs Lane in Grovetown. I just had a question. Could something like this be approved if it had conditions like limitations? She agreed to a specific number of type of animals?
I don't know that we're in this body that we can put those conditions in. I'm assuming that could be something that could be done at the commission level.
Certainly could recommend them if you were inclined to do
Okay,
so.
so we could put it in as a condition.
Who would be responsible for checking that and how often? And
Code enforcement would have to enforce the.
what cost? How often would that be?
Typically, that's going to be complaint-driven more than, you know, a specified quarterly.
Sure. So we could set the limit, but it's the owner's responsibility.
Yeah, we're not going to make a monthly inspection of the property to confirm compliance. We're going to go on the basis that she has a limitation, whatever that is set at, and
The other side of that is that this business requires Department of Ag and possibly USDA licensing, and our Department of Ag group has been pretty good about working with us. So if you were inclined to approve it with limitations, we can pass those on to them as well, and they do regular inspections as part of their licensing.
Probably need to consult them about the size of the property and what
They did
the
provide
proper
comments.
ratio would be.
Yeah, they don't have any real comments or any regulations on the animal counts. We have talked to them about that. Their only comment was that as she's part of the narrative includes offering pony rides, she does need a stable license, and she does have to be licensed with them.
It's all about, with the state, it's all about care.
Correct.
As long as they're
Right, so
taken care of, they don't say much.
Right, so they would come
On
out
any
and do the
farm.
inspection to ensure that.
Forgive
I've
me.
got a stable license at my farm, and they come once a year and check it.
And if you're giving rides, is there some equine responsibility or licensing, background checking?
Come with a stable license, I assume.
Right, so she would have the stable license, and then it would be incumbent on her to get any type of insurance or liability insurance, things like that, to cover herself for that operation.
Only reason I brought it up about numbers is I can see potential for, let's say that we zone this, and it starts to be a pretty hot item for people to come to. And it's reasonable numbers of people that are coming. Before you know it, then you're going to have this kind of animal or more of the other. And I can see the potential for it getting out of hand. Now, the time to address that is when we're zoning it now. Because if we...
That's why I would recommend that you put some sort, since that is your chief concern, that you put some sort of restriction on that could be enforced by ag, by other code enforcement.
But like
Budget will also
Scott
drive.
said, I don't know that we have the legal authority to do that.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak either for or against? Yes, sir. Please come forward, give us your name and home address.
Gary Mann. I live in Hepzibah, Georgia. I work for Dr. Norris. I've worked for her for a little over a year. And first thing I want to say is, like, directed to your concern, she's very conservative as far as her animal population. But under her current situation, she has no restrictions. She can have 500 chickens if she wants. I mean, that's county ordinances. But she is very, very strict on what she has. She limits them. She's constantly downsizing. And she's got a huge downsizing going on now. A lot of animals that she wants to get rid of before she opens, to open up more space for the playground and different things. Traffic will never be a problem there. She's not looking for bringing in 50 cars a day. You know, she's more concerned with a school bus of children. You know, she's more into the educational side of it. You know, now we have visitors constantly. today had a family came in and asked, can we walk around? You know, she went out and walked around with them. We have this, I mean, every day of the week. Weekends, we usually have 4 or 5 people just pop in. Can we walk around? We always go with them. You know, we don't just let people go. But, you know, a lot of the concerns of it being a big, you know, outgrowing population there or whatever, that's not where she wants them. I mean, that's her home too. Like I said, I worked for her for over a year now, and you know, she's done very well so far. Animal control has come out. She's always complied with any questions they had. The last time they came out, the guy said, we see nothing wrong. There's no problems. You know, and I always ask them when I'm there, do you see anything we can improve? You know, she's done everything. She's jumped the hoops. She's put a 7-foot fence around the entire property now. With barbed wire on top, nothing can get over it. There's no danger of animal, provided we close the gates. Now, that does happen. The main gate does get left open occasionally. But we don't have free-running animals. No, that just doesn't happen. That's all I really wanted to say. But, you know, give her consideration because she's really, really trying to comply with everything for the city and for the county.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak either for or against this particular rezoning? Hang on just a minute. Let's see if there's anybody else. Anybody else? Okay, yes, ma'am, please come back up.
As far as the USDA is concerned, I've dealt with them past, and I did get a USDA license a year and a half ago or more, and I was only required to do, well, actually, I wasn't required at the time to do it because I didn't have the public in, but I went ahead and got the license, and the only reason they told me that I would need to have it was because I had a zebu bull. So there's certain types of animals that require you to get a USDA license. They had actually loosened the requirements just before I applied. Well, I sold my bull, and I don't intend to get another one. I did not grow up on a farm, and I knew nothing about farm animals. I began this, so it's been a learning process, and yes, I've made mistakes, and I've tried to fix everything to the satisfaction of all the neighbors and the Planning Commission, animal control, code enforcement, everyone involved. I'm constantly working on it and trying to improve it. I've spent over $200,000 trying to make the site what it needs to be. I spent $60,000 on stormwater drainage, and not because other people complained about it, but I had complaints about stormwater. Baldwin Lakes neighborhood dumps their stormwater onto my property. I was told by someone with the stormwater utility department that they had been failed on their stormwater plan, but apparently there are no plans to make them correct it, that they can continue to dump it on my property, and I have to deal with it.
Mr. Sterling, a civil matter? As I recall, neighbor can't dump their water on another neighbor?
I'll double check with stormwater tomorrow and see what, if any, pending issues are with Baldwin Lakes, and if anything that they need to rectify the situation. But if it is in compliance and there are any concerns across the boundary, across property line, matter.
Appreciate that.
Each property owner is responsible for their own stormwater.
And there's another property owner who does the same thing. He actually has drains that go from his warehouse, the gutters, underground onto my property and empty on my property.
The lot there in the front on Columbia Road?
Right.
The lawn service people mow it?
Yes, it's not zone commercial, but it's a business. So I don't know how he does. I know he put up the warehouse without a permit, but.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's not my issue anyway. But I'm not doing this for a profit. I was doing it as a community. I just wanted to share it.
That was a question I was gonna ask too.
There is no profit.
Is there's no fee, like if, you know, I said, hey, look, I wanna bring my daughter's Girl Scout brownie troop out there and.
Not at this, It's not a
So you
business.
just
I don't
say,
charge
come
it.
at 3 and we're good to go?
I invite people to come and look around. I don't charge anything. I ask them to bring snacks for the animals, apples, carrots, like that.
Thank you, ma'am. If there's no one else that wants to speak either for or against, I'm going to close the public hearing. And gentlemen, we need a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to deny RZ 20-0605 for rezoning.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor to disapprove? Motion? Motion to disapprove passes 5-0. Mr. Butler, file RZ 200606, conditional use tax map 077 Charlie.
This is a request for a conditional use at 3815 Martinez Boulevard. It's currently zoned M1 Light Industrial. Property's on the north side of Martinez Boulevard and currently zoned M1. You have kind of a mixture of your industrial classifications. You have M1 to the north, and you have C3 on either side of it, and across Martinez Boulevard is C2. There's an aerial view of the site, and it's more of a commercial use than an industrial use. Or from the site itself, sorry. And the plat of the property. We're looking at tract A. So overall, a commercial or a church within an industrial area, the issue usually becomes that the church itself can cause other industrial uses to not locate there, or potentially cause them to leave. This situation, the property itself is more commercial in nature, so there's not really an issue with that in this situation. The other thing too is with the parking on the site itself. Church is going to have heavy use on Sundays and occasionally on Wednesday evenings. The use or the time of operation here is primarily Sunday and Wednesday. In terms of the parking itself, they said they're going to have 75 people within the building. They require a maximum of 46 parking spaces. They have 42 on the site. Again, with the kind of staggered setup of the use itself, shouldn't be an issue from a parking standpoint. In terms of future land use, it is within the Martinez Activity Center. That does allow for commercial uses, industrial, and also civic. Church is civic use, so it does meet the intent of the future land use map. Overall, staff has no concerns with the request and recommends approval. That includes staff recommendation.
Gentlemen, do you have any questions of staff? Is the applicant here? Mr. Frankie, we know you come forward and give us your name and home address so everybody else knows you.
Billy Frankie, I'm at 902 Fairfield Avenue, North Augusta, South Carolina, 29841. Congratulations on the move over, Scott. I don't think I've seen you since you've been over. Anyway, we're asking for a church to go in here. ADT Security has been the tenant next door for 15 years, and they are in 6,300 square feet, and the church wants to operate in 2,700 square feet. They will be, Wednesday night services and Sunday. ADT is not even around during those times, and they've got very little parking they use now anyway. So I don't really see any kind of conflict. And the applicants, Darian McKinnon is here, who's going to lead the church. If y'all have any specific questions about that.
I just wonder if this is going to be a temporary place of worship until they find a permanent location, or is this going to be a permanent location?
He wants to grow it. As far as I know, it is a startup. So you're not right off the bat, you're not going to have many. If you outgrow it, you need to find something else anyway.
Gentlemen, any questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak either for or against this particular rezoning? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and accept a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve RZ 2006.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? To approve carries 5-0. Ms. Mystery, file RZ 200607, major PUD revision.
Thank you, sir. This is a major PUD revision at 500 and 502 Furious Ferry Road. It's 11.16 acres, and the current zoning is PUD, and the use is a shopping center. And the revision is to add two additional commercial buildings. Here is the aerial on Furious Ferry, and it was the location where the old Bilo store was. This is the zoning map. It shows that mostly it's PUD. There's some S1 and C1 close by, and it was actually zoned as a PUD in 1985, and it was part of a 100-acre PUD. Here's the aerial that shows the existing buildings on the site, and another view of that. And these are photographs taken on Furious Ferry Road, so it shows that the old Barlow store, which is what's there, it's set back off the road, and there's quite a large parking lot in front of it. This is a plot of the property, which is the existing buildings. And this is the 2005 approved site plan. This is the proposed site plan, and the concept is to add those two buildings where you see the red. Both of those are 4,800 square feet in area. The applicant has been talking with the staff over several months about what they want to do with this property, and have agreed to have two buildings instead of one strip center. And the idea behind that is there's a mixture of commercial uses here, including some restaurants, and the space in the middle of the two buildings would give future tenants maybe an outdoor dining space or some other type of outdoor space that they could use as part of their business and create a nicer environment. These are just some ideas that the staff have included in the presentation for you, because unfortunately Columbia County doesn't have a lot of very good restaurants with outdoor spaces. Some of the ones that you see are just like a small railed area outside a restaurant. This is the potential to have something different. And as part of a PUD zoning, which is required to have some sort of unique character, we've talked to the engineer to come up with something creative, and this is some ideas for them to look at. We don't have any finished elevations of this at the moment, so there is a condition to take care of that. This location is in the future land use map under neighborhoods, and obviously the existing commercial is already there, so staff is comfortable with adding 2 more commercial buildings. So the request is to approve with conditions, and they are that the elevations will be submitted to the Planning Commission for approval prior to permitting, and the developer and the design team shall work closely with staff. And the second one, the details of the outdoor space and dumpster screening and mechanical utility screening shall be included as part of the review noted above. Includes a recommendation.
Thank you, ma'am. I do have one question. If they had outdoor dining areas like that, would their alcohol license extend out to those areas?
As long as it's enclosed.
As long as it's
It
enclosed?
has to be fenced.
Okay, got it. All right, is the applicant here? Is there anyone that'd like to speak either for or against this particular rezoning? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and accept a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve with condition file RZ 200607.
Do your second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion passes 4-1. And our last item on the agenda tonight, we do have a request to table this for 30 days, so I'm assuming that would be the July 16th meeting?
That's correct.
Okay, and since this has been advertised, we'll go ahead and conduct the public hearing, and then we'll suspend it and continue it when this reappears on the agenda. So, Mr. Butler, file VA 200602.
This is a request for variances to section 9-139, buffers and screening, and 147I3 use provisions to reduce buffers at 422 and 426 Lewiston Road. Currently zoned C2, shows the location of the property, across the street from the Kroger on Lewiston Road, on the east side of Lewiston. Being currently zoned C2, you have C2 to the south and across the street, across Lewiston. Then you have R1 to the north and aerial view of the site. You do have the acquisition right-of-way here. There will be more here as well, but GIS hasn't been updated yet showing that. And the existing site, again, currently undeveloped and wooded. The two houses that were there back in 2016 when it was rezoned have been removed. And the plat of the two properties. Plat. So the overall concept, the whole issue of the site, and we'll kind of see it here in a moment, is the topography of it. You have from this corner to this corner, you have a 25-foot drop. Pretty serious. So you do have a retaining wall that goes along Lewiston Road. You have another retaining wall that separates the drive-through lane, which is on this side, from the pass-through lane. You're looking at basically it's 15 feet from this building to this building, just from the finished floors. That doesn't count the actual height of the building itself. So you have a pretty serious issue with topography on the site itself. Overall, we have concerns with the overall design. The applicant has requested to meet with us to kind of go over how to remedy these issues and kind of bring back what is the best possible project for this. In terms of, go to the next slide, the rough grading plan. Again, you can see here, it's a significant amount of drop on it. I'm not going to really get into it since it is being tabled. We also have the plan showing the overlay of the road design for Lewiston. This shows the retaining wall that's going in. Again, one of the things with the rezoning back in 2016, there were concerns about this property being rezoned for this type of use with the Lewiston Road widening and not including other property with it. So it's one that we know may be an issue forward. And again, we originally recommended disapproval. However, staff is in agreement that it could be tabled to the July 16th Planning Commission meeting. So staff recommendation.
Questions? I've got one. Is the fix as easy as flipping the parking lot to the rear?
So one of the things that we saw from the actually back in 2016 was chopping basically this fast food off and putting it on top of this pond right here. That would be expensive. You're always going to have topography issues with it. You're going to have a wall at some point back here. A question of where does it go, that sort of thing. The drive-through kind of big issue. It has to be flat. It's one that if you're able to move that, it can solve some of your problems. If you flip the parking, I mean, you might can make it work, but again, the topography is still going to be a problem. That's the whole issue of the site, is just figuring out the least intrusive for the adjacent property. Realistically, if you want an easy go of it, you need to buy the property next door. But not going to happen. It's not going to happen anytime soon, we'll put it that way.
Is the applicant here this evening? Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to speak either for or against this particular variance? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and we need a vote or a request to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to table file VA 26-2
until July 16th.
July 16th.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion to approve to table carries 5-0. We have no text amendment or additional items. We have no legal matters. Do we have any staff or commissioner comments?
Just one real quickly. I'd like to remind everybody, both on the commission, those in the public, that we do have 2 surveys out for Vision 2035's update. They're both they're linked to the website. So if you have time and the opportunity to fill those out, we would love to have your input, interaction with the Vision 2035 update for the comprehensive plan.
Wilder, I saw you lean toward the microphone.
Yeah, why would somebody not come forward or speak for their?
It's happened before.
Busy.
I've got his phone number if you'd like to call him. Okay. Any other commissioner comments? Do we have any public comments? Seeing none, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? To approve carries 5-0. Meeting adjourns at 6:49. Our next Planning and Zoning Commission is Thursday, July 2nd, 2020 at 6 p.m. in these chambers.
Yes.